Hello and welcome to Below the Hospital. I'm your host, Garland Ray Grisby Sr., Sterile Processing Manager at Sutter Health CPMC. And in this podcast, I ask what some folks might call hard questions, but what I like to think are informative questions about our sterile processing profession. Today I have with me on the show, Marcia Frieze. Now, Marcia is CEO of Case Medical. She's an expert in infection control, sterilization, packaging, and safe chemical use. She has also contributed to the development of multiple AAMI standard documents and earned multiple patents for products used during decontamination and sterilization. And on today's episode, we are going to talk about sustainability in our world and how it applies to or how we can apply it. So let's jump right in. Marcia, thank you for being with us today. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you, Garland. It's a pleasure contributing to your podcast and helping folks in sterile processing and healthcare understand the importance of safety and how sustainability plays an important role in that.
Yes, thank you. Because a lot of times in sterile processing, we don't think about sustainability until someone brings it up and asks about a lot of waste. So let's jump right in. So what are the underlying concerns that have led you and Case Medical to prioritize sustainability?
Well, I think I mentioned to you, just briefly, that to me it was just good common sense. It wasn't though it was any type of conscious motivation on my part. But when it comes, in particular to healthcare, I think the biggest shift is to realize that chemicals used in healthcare don't just do their job and disappear. And for a long time, decisions were driven by cost or habit without fully looking at the downstream effects. But once you start seeing things like residue, exposure risks to patients and staff, or unnecessary waste, it becomes clear that this is really about safety and quality, not just about sustainability.
That's a good point. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. So, can you give me some context on cost and scale of medical waste in the healthcare sector?
Well, first of all, healthcare waste management is a major and rising expense within U.S. hospitals in general. Roughly 7,000 tons of waste is disposed of daily. Spending is nearly $2 billion annually just on disposal alone. I'm not looking about, the other factors, related to patient and staff safety and, the destruction of devices and so on and so forth. But this is one that particularly is important to me as a manufacturer of sterilization containers. Blue wrap alone accounts for 19% of OR waste. And globally, the healthcare sector is responsible for approximately 4.4 to 5.2% of greenhouse gas emissions and about 5% of global carbon dioxide emissions. Healthcare were a country, it would rank as the 13th largest emitter, and in the United States it accounts for roughly 8.5% of domestic greenhouse gases. So what's interesting is that we tend to underestimate the cost because we focus on the price of the products that we purchase, not really looking at the total cost of ownership. But when you zoom out, there's a much bigger picture. Waste disposal, storage, shipping, device damage, workflow inefficiencies, and all that adds up. So sustainability isn't only about reducing waste, it's about reducing the total cost of the system, which is something I think healthcare is starting to recognize more. At least I hope so.
Wow, so you painted the whole picture for us.
There are so many statistics and so many warnings. But as a manufacturer, not only do I care about the patients and the staff that we serve, but I also care about our own house, our own company and factory. And that's why we've worked very hard to meet the New Jersey standards for the Green Building Project also.
Speechless. Speechless. Well, let's go into the next one, right? So, how is sustainability specifically relevant to sterile processing, right? You touched on a lot just a few seconds ago, but how specifically relevant to sterile processing?
Okay, so sterile processing is at the center of this because instrument processing is such a chemical heavy environment. Every step, cleaning, rinsing, even now water treatment has chemical implications. Um, and every step has implications for exposure, residue, and even how long instruments last. And what we've learned is not about using more chemicals, it's about using the right chemistry and having good process control and following through with a thorough rinse using pure water. Remember, water is a universal solvent, and I
Mm-hmm.
hate to say it, in some cases, we overuse chemicals and we underutilize the importance of the rinse.
No, I've been saying that a long time because some folks think more is better, more chemical is better, but yeah, I mean, there's manufacturer's instructions on these chemicals, especially as far as the rinsing is concerned, and we have to follow them because what we can't see the residues initially, but they'll show up over time, right? Like you mentioned.
And your cumulative, and they will affect the outcome for patient safety, and they'll even affect the outcome of the sterilization process too, because residue, interferes with sterilization.
So, how do you balance eco-friendly practices with the sterility and durability requirements that SPD professionals adhere to and patients depend on?
Okay, this is probably the biggest misconception that you have to choose between sustainability and performance. In reality, safer chemistry can actually improve outcomes. For example, using enzymatic or pH neutral cleaners can be more effective than harsher ones like alkaline cleaners. Detergents are faster acting, they use less energy. Basically, they're catalysts, so they speed
Mhm.
up reactions. They're gentler on instruments and reduce the unnecessary chemical burden. And importantly, do no harm to devices, equipment, and the wastewater stream. So it's not about doing less, it's about doing it smarter while still meeting all of the clinical requirements.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that out because that's been a topic that folks that I know have had for a few years now on the type of chemistry to use and oh well this is harsher than your typical enzymatic so it's better. I'm glad that you brought that out.
Now, enzymes are really miraculous in a lot of ways because they break down, all of the bodily soils and contaminants
Hmm.
that are on surgical instruments. I don't want to get myself in trouble here, but I know for a fact that enzymes can do a lot more than clean. And the important part is they break things down. And the enzymes that we have in many of the cleaning products are very similar to the digestive enzymes that we have in our bodies, and they don't pollute the wastewater stream. The crazy thing about it is that enzymes, as they go down into the wastewater stream, into the reservoirs, actually are cleaning up the organic matter that's in there, and even the pollutants.
Interesting.
And you don't need more than that either. Just need a good enzymatic detergent and a thorough rinse, and voila, all of the contamination and residue is gone, and it's simple, and I think it could cut back a lot of processing time too.
Those were good points, folks. I hope you're listening. I hope you're listening. So for the SPD professionals listening, what can they do today to make a difference?
Okay, so first of all, they don't have to, they can start small. They don't
Mhm.
have to make big changes. They don't have to overhaul everything at once. They can choose one product or process and ask, is this creating unnecessary risk, residue, or waste? And then explore safer, evidence based alternatives across the entire workflow. Overuse of chemicals and insufficient rinsing can leave harmful residue and even, as I mentioned before, compromise sterilization outcomes. So the real process starts with being intentional, asking better questions, and understanding the science behind cleaning, and considering that water is the universal solvent.
Yeah, yeah. So, are there some areas where you think improvement is already being made?
Yeah, I think progress is already happening, driven by education and growing awareness. But I think it has a long way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there is increasing adoption of safer, reusable solutions like sterilization containers instead of wrap. Hospitals are shifting more toward evidence based and the total impact of the products that they're purchasing, not just upfront cost, and that's where the total cost of ownership comes into play. And for example, even though there's an illusion or a belief that enzymatic cleaners are more expensive, even though they're, as I said, they do an excellent job of removing bodily soils and organic contaminants, they really reduce the cost of use when you think about cutting back unnecessary cleaning steps, reducing the amount of energy needed because they're faster acting. You don't need to use such high temperatures. But there's still a lot of legacy thinking to overcome.
Yes.
I think that the momentum is clearly moving in the right direction.
Yes, that was a first. But you're right. Legacy thinking. Legacy thinking. So, are there safety or cost benefits associated with taking a more sustainability conscious approach to sterile processing or healthcare in general?
Sustainability improves safety by reducing exposure risks, certainly to chemicals, but to other hazardous substances. It minimizes waste and residue and protects both patients and staff while also supporting environmental health. Remember, the water we have today has been here for billions of years, and it's not a renewable resource. We have to really think about not just ourselves, but the future of our children and grandchildren. Sustainability lowers costs by cutting waste, extending the life of devices and equipment, and improving efficiency. But most importantly, it helps safeguard people and preserve our environment and water supply for future generations. In the end, sustainability isn't just an environmental effort, it's a win across the board. And I see it as contributing to the health and well-being of people and the planet.
Wow. That was a nice statement. It's a win across the board. So, we will we will definitely keep talking about this. Marcia, want to thank you for taking the time to be with us here on the show today. And we definitely want to invite you back for another topic that may touch on sustainability or may not. But definitely a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you very much, Garland. I really appreciate the opportunity, and it was a pleasure meeting you today, and I hope we can continue to have conversations and get to know each other better.
Definitely. So, as usual, folks, I hope this episode has been useful. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode. If you want to support the podcast, you can find us at Below the Hospital on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, and Amy Array. Until then, see you when I see you.